Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, this is a pretty big video, right? Now, I will give even further thoughts on Asheville, since they've already changed a lot from the last time. However, also, this entire leak thing, right? So, for those not in the know, basically the entirety of all of the reliable HSR leakers have either quit or decided to completely stop leaking or take a break from it, right? So this does include Dim, this includes Anon, which is probably the biggest loss because this guy is usually the one who leaks the most with the most reliability, right? Sakura Haven is staying quiet, Galaxy Leaks is apparently staying quiet, Seal Leaks, the original people who were leaking on it, decided to completely step away from Hoyo Leaks and decided to transfer it to someone else. We've lost a fuck ton of leakers, and apparently this is all because they're basically all scared because HomDGCat is getting sued, right? Now, apparently contrary to popular belief, HomDGCat isn't getting sued because of the Yunli cosplay exposing them. Apparently, there's like an actual thing you can look up with HomDGCat's real name, the person who runs the site, and in this entire lawsuit that's going on, it actually mentions somewhere that they've contacted HomDG multiple times and sent cease and desists to make them stop. However, they never stopped. So they ended up taking it all the way to a lawsuit since HomDGCat wouldn't listen. So now that some leakers are seeing, oh, they actually can sue you. And keep in mind, apparently HomDG is somewhere in the US. So it's not even like, oh, it's because HomDG is in China and that's their homeland and it's very easy for them to sue them. No, this is like overseas for them, right? So no matter where you are, you basically aren't safe from being sued by Hoyo if they really want to take it that far and are tired of the leaking antics. So yeah, ton of leakers have quit or taken breaks or decided to not leak as much, and it does suck. Now, for some of you who may be thinking this, no, this does not affect Hakushin, and this does not affect beta updates or private server gameplays, right? Most people are still anonymous through private server gameplays anyways, so this entire charade, that we're used to of new patch starts, that's when we get the update kit on Hakushin. One day later we get the gameplays and people start using the private server. This is probably going to continue, right? This is probably fine. However, things like what Anon was doing of 4.0 to 4.2 is going to be majority elation characters. Nihilux is no longer in 4.3. Ashveil won't get his teammates until damn near the end of version 4. There's gonna be barely any elation units after 4.2. Things like this that basically allowed someone to have an incredible amount of foresight, those were what HSR was really after and tired of people leaking, right? So because of this entire thing, we will no longer get super in-depth, super far away leaks like those. Another one is like the 4.2 Nova Flare, right? That also wasn't supposed to be something normally leaked. And we're going to have to deal with just normal beta updates and as well as Hakushin updates because that's more so data mining. And even though that is technically leaking, it isn't anywhere near as bad to Hoyo as the other things of leaking, right? So let me know what you guys think down in the comments about this entire situation. It is pretty crazy. It is pretty wild. I don't know if something can happen to me because I obviously don't leak anything. I'm just a reposter who sometimes says what these leakers say on my community posts or videos. However, we'll see how that ends up going. Hopefully I'm safe, right? If not, obviously I'll have to go back and delete all my videos and shit. And that's that. Now, let's talk about Ashveil, right? Ashveil is probably the strongest DPS currently in the game, at base. Now, I do think this is important to mention because it's unlikely this guy is going to get best in slot teammates for his hyper carry, and his vertical investment is some of the worst in the entirety of the game. And no, I'm not exaggerating. For example, Ratio from 1.x has better total Eidolon investment as compared to Ashveil. Yeah, it is that bad, right? So a lot of people are saying, oh, Ashveil's going to get nerfed. Ashveil's going to get nerfed. I don't think Ashveil is getting nerfed at all. I think at base, he is really strong. He's very good at using general supports. However, literally one patch after him is going to be 2 Elation main DPSs who can finally unlock the, triple Elation character AHA instant speed, take advantage of more Elation skills, and on top of this, they probably have way better vertical investment as compared to Ashveil, because once again, his Eidolon investment is trash. He needs to rely on vertical investment in general supports, right? Now, this doesn't mean Ashveil is bad. It means he's decently balanced, right? Because obviously, he is supposed to be a sub DPS, supposedly, for a future main DPS. So, they aren't going to dedicate him any, specific best in slots just to upgrade him. So, his current power level, even though it is technically like low costing MOCs, better than basically everyone before him, I think it's okay. Remember, cost isn't everything and you need nuance. If someone is really good at base and using generalist supports, but have terrible verticals, then this doesn't matter, right? A great example of this is Anoxa. Anoxa was the greatest character for getting low cost clears against endgame content for quite a while, I'd say, right? He would always be top 1, lowest cost, because he could take advantage of the generalist buffers, and he could always hit a good amount of damage, and he didn't overkill really, because he's more of a spammy type, right? So because of this, Anoxa used to be glazed as like the strongest character in the game at one time, because he would constantly get the lowest cost 0 cycles. However, this wasn't the case, right? We saw it during around 3.6's MOC. Anoxa fell off massively in terms of performance and his ability to low cost 0 cycle endgame, because he had no more verticals, right? He didn't really have many dedicated teammates for him at all. His Eidolon investment is trash. He kind of needs to rely on E1 Seri and in Sunday, and that's it. That's all he had, right? So until this guy got Cyrene, you were able to see how badly a character could age if they didn't have verticals that they could invest into going into the future to match HP inflation. So while right now Ashveil looks absolutely busted at base, and he is strong, I'm not saying he isn't the power creep that people think he is. He is like the most prone to falling off the farther down we go into the version, at least in his hyper carry, as compared to like main DPS Sparksy, especially when she's able to run 3 Elation. Both of these upcoming Elation main DPSs, Himiko SP, they'll all age better than him, even if they're slightly worse at base, because they actually get dedicated teammates and they get stronger and better Eidolon investment, right? So for this reason, I do not think he's getting nerfed. And if what Anon said back then is true about him not getting his main DPS until near the end of version 4, then with this being the case, obviously they'd actually want him to be this strong and be able to use generalist supports, because otherwise this guy isn't going to sell for shit, right? He's only a 4-week long patch, the only limited character on the patch, and because it's an only 4-week patch, people are going to be much more open to just skipping the guy and instantly pulling the Elation team. They are trying to bait people as much as possible into pulling Ashveil, and that's why I believe they will not nerf this guy, right? He isn't getting nerfed. I am very confident, if anything, he may get a slight buff with his charge ability, but he will not get nerfed damage-wise, because otherwise, it'll be very hard for them to actually sell him if they care about that, right? Plus, if they do manage to sell someone on Asheville, then they might lose a 50-50 on the anniversary and regret it and then feel like spending money. This is just the Hoyo tactics thing of, put rerun banners in the best places possible so you can make as much money as possible. It makes the most sense that Asheville, with his current strength, does make it to live, in my opinion. People can feel free to disagree. They can think I'm advocating for power creep. However, the reality is this game will always have a continuous cycle of power creep. So it's better he's strong and 4.2 units are a bit stronger as compared to him being weak and then any units are still stronger anyways. Right. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I think Asheville is an amazing investment for a DPS you just pick up quickly. Give him some of your generalist supports you might not use as much anymore and will perform exceptionally. And I gave this glaze to Anoxa, right? I did give this glaze to Anoxa when he first came out. This was the exact thoughts I had about Anoxa. When I finally came around to realizing his main DPS was better as compared to him being a sub DPS for the Herda, I said the same thing. This is a character who doesn't really need Lycone, doesn't really need Eidolons, doesn't need dedicated supports, but will still perform with the generalist supports you may not be using on other teams. And that has a lot of value in of itself, in my opinion. However, unlike Anoxa, this guy's actually technically going to get buffed again further. Now, it will be in sub DPS, but the point is he'll eventually get his main DPS and his entire team will be able to do probably significantly more damage as compared to current Asheville with the generalist supports, right? So solid future potential. I'm very proud of the way Hoyo has gone around not making more Aglayas in my days that age incredibly badly. They've learned how to really make characters who are dual role so that they can be good on launch, and if someone decides to invest a little further into their future team, then they age way better if someone decides to do that. Sparksy, and as well as Ashveil, and the way they've even sold Yao Guang, her kind of being like the Siren of Elation, yet on the first patch of the version, fucking amazing in my opinion. This is way better for the player as compared to the 3.x banners. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.